Hey everybody, it's Mr. Summers. This is the lecture portion of Notes 10C for Oregon Country. We're going to start with talking about what manifest destiny is. Manifest destiny was the belief that the United States was destined, was meant, whether by God, by fate, by providence, or whatnot, but that it was destined to spread from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean, that it was destined to acquire new territory and populate these regions, and that the United States would at some point spread from the Atlantic all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Um, this also would include the spreading of our form of government, our republic, and of the American culture. So this is rooted in a little bit of ethnocentrism, that we believe that the American way was the right way. It also would put us into conflict with some of our neighbors during this time period, whether the nation of Mexico or the Native American groups, or any other country that had a claim to that territory. Now, in Oregon, the first Americans to travel around Oregon were the mountain men. Mountain men were quite simply fur trappers. They were not permanent residents. They were moving from place to place. They were conducting business, but in doing so, they blazed the first trails to the Western Territories. One of the most famous mountain men was John Jacob Astor. He would eventually become the first American multimillionaire, but not necessarily from the fur trade. He picked up a side gig buying real estate, and he bought a whole lot of properties in a then relatively unknown island in New York called Manhattan. The Waldorf Astoria is named partially after John Jacob Astor. Missionaries were the first permanent Americans to settle in Oregon. Quite simply, they were trying to convert the natives to their religion. They were not necessarily successful because they were not well versed in native culture, and the natives were not very trusting of the missionaries. One example is Marcus and Narcissa Whitman, who went and tried to establish a mission for the natives. However, they were murdered by the natives during a measles epidemic. It was believed that they were practicing some magic to cause the natives to get sick. And so the natives, who were scared by this new disease, killed the two. Finally, the Oregon Trail. The Oregon Trail, quite simply, is a 2,000-mile route from Independence, Missouri. I'm going to point at it with my mouse here, traveling westward through the mountains and to Oregon, the Willamette Valley. It took anywhere between 4 and 6 months for families in horse and carts to travel that distance. They could average about 15 or 20 miles a day. Now, there were a lot of dangers on this trip. Now, the one you see on TV is usually native attacks. There were some, but they were not nearly as frequent as depicted on old Western television shows. However, in the route, running out of food, which would lead to starvation, disease breakouts in traveling groups, accidents. Remember, these are not nice paved highways, interstates where you're in your nice car, playing on your iPad while your parents are driving, or a nice airplane while you're playing on your iPad, or listening to your phone while you're going zoom, zoom, zoom to your destination. Those three things caused a lot more deaths. There's a lot more detail about some of these subjects in your student notes. So please go on and answer those questions from the text. Thank you.